It is officially stretch time in Hamden for both the Quinnipiac men's and women's basketball teams. And today we have all the information you are going to want about these two. Welcome inside another edition of Hot Hoops presented by Q30 Sports. My name is Mario Hirsch-Gordon and I'll be your host. I'm joined alongside Dylan Fearon, men's basketball beat reporter. Dylan, thanks for hopping on.
Great to be here, more. Thank you.
Dylan, Quinnipiac men's basketball team entered this past week in need of two big wins to get back to 500 in league play. But first, it was the Niagara Purple Eagles who paid a visit to Hamden on Saturday night. Let's check those highlights out right now. Quinnipiac, like I said, entered 5-7. It was Saturday night. It was a triple header. Women's basketball team won at 1 o'clock. Women's ice hockey won at 3 o'clock. So could the men's basketball team get the clean sweep? Peter Kiss drives left and one off glass. Quinnipiac would have an early 8-2 lead. Later on, it was all Kiss again. Between the legs, pull up, hand down, man down. Peter Kiss pushes the Bobcats lead to 14. Mikey Dixon to Danny Harris. Now to Kiss in the corner. Kiss had the hot hand. He finished with 23 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. Here is one of them, an outlet to Abdoulaye Bundu. Great cross-court pass by Danny Harris. Mikey Dixon knocks that one down. 18 points for him. He's been averaging well over 20 points the last 20 games. Reggie Oliver now on the right wing. Finds a cutting Kiss down low. He can play inside. He can play out. He can also dish the rock. Great swing pass by Alan Giga. Extra pass gives it to Andrew Robinson, who drills the three. Quinnipiac would go on to have a big 89-81 victory. So Dylan, Monday night, the team then traveled to Bridgeport to face state rival Fairfield, and the Stags led by 10 at the break. They pushed that lead to as many as nearly 14 early in the second half. Freshman Peter Kiss, Mikey Dixon, the standout stars, they helped keep the game within reach. But every time Quinnipiac would make a run, Fairfield would seem to hit a 2 or hit a dagger 3. Quinnipiac down 11 with 7 minutes left, finished the game on a 19-6 run, including Kiss's game-winning bucket with 1 second left. Quite the week for Quinnipiac men's basketball. What do you make of the big two wins?
Well, the first thing off is that Donovan Smith was out with a broken foot, and he didn't play in those 2 games, and that really affects Quinnipiac's front court in terms of rebounding, protecting the rim. And Donovan Smith's 6'9", 245 pounds, and he comes off the bench. There's really no other team in the MAC that can say they bring a 6'9", 245-pound big off the bench and only play 20 minutes and give you 11 points, 8 boards, and a couple of blocks. So they really thought they were going to miss him in those 2 games, but they're fortunate enough to play 2 teams that aren't the best rebounding teams in the MAC. And so they were fortunate to play those 2 teams in Niagara and Fairfield. They looked good. The guards really stepped up and rebounded well. We just talked about it more. You just said it. Peter Kiss, 13 rebounds in that game against Niagara. He did it again with 12 against Fairfield. So he's looked really, really good on the glass. But the issues are going to be on the bench. You know, who's going to step up on that bench without Donovan Smith being there? Abdoulaye Bundu is kind of banged up. So they're a little thin right now in the front court. And that's what I'm going to be looking at with the last couple of games coming up with 6 regular season games left in MAC play. Who's going to be the guys off the bench to step up, because we haven't really seen it the last 2 games.
Bench played an integral role in that comeback against Fairfield. Specifically, senior shooting guard Danny Harris, 14 points, 10 points, off the bench in the second half alone. 3 3-pointers by the senior from Florida. What did you like about his resolve and resiliency on Monday night?
Well, last year he was starting every game, and he was really, really good last year, 40% from 3, and he really contributed to that team with Giovanni McLean and James Ford Jr., kind of being that third guy to score for Quinnipiac. Now this year he's kind of come off the bench. He's been inconsistent. He really hasn't had that shot so far. And so he's really finding himself now. And that game against Fairfield was huge for his confidence and for Quinnipiac, because without Donovan Smith coming off the bench, now the bench is thinner. And you look at other guys on that bench, Reggie Oliver, Phil Winston, Andrew Robinson, who really haven't contributed in the last couple of games. Now it's kind of, the onus is on Daniel Harris to step up and knock down a couple 3-pointers every single game, because you saw Andrew Robinson in the last 2 games not really getting it done. Phil Winston distributing, facilitating really well, not turning the ball over, but production-wise in terms of scoring the basketball wasn't really there. Reggie Oliver hasn't done too much the last 2 games. So now, with Donovan Smith out and the rest of the bench not doing too much, it's really the onus is on Daniel Harris to step up and knock down a couple of threes every single game and play solid defense on the ball.
Is Danny Harris that key off the bench?
Well, he's got to be. He's absolutely got to be. He started last year. He's a senior. It's his second year on the team. Look at the rest of the bench. All those guys, it's their first year. You know, Jaquan Jones, first year on the team. Reggie Oliver, Phil Winston, first year on the team. Donovan Smith's now out. So it's on Daniel Harris now to knock down a couple of threes, to play really solid defense, and be the leader on that bench. Now that he's, been demoted to that bench, with Peter Kiss and Micah Dixon playing terrific basketball.
7-7 in conference now. Quinnipiac 6th in the MAC standings. Let's take a look at that right now. This was a team, Dylan, that was predicted to finish 10th at the beginning of the year, but quite the impressive start, and continuation by Quinnipiac. Monmouth obviously atop the conference at 12-2. Iona took a loss last night at home to Siena, so between 2 and 6, only 2 games separates Iona from Quinnipiac, as you see 2-6. Fairfield still hanging around, though. Quinnipiac still has them one more time and has Ryder twice. Ryder is also still in the mix. They beat Monmouth. So with all those tiebreaker scenarios, Ryder can still find itself, in the 4th or 5th spot by the time that the season rolls around, and Niagara and Manhattan round out the bottom. Marist is in 11th as well at 3-10. Dylan, we talked about it last night on Bobcat Breakdown. What is the probability? Where would you put, that meter right now for the chances that Quinnipiac can get that bye?
I think there's a really good chance because, Quinnipiac has played the toughest teams in the MAC already. They played Iona twice, they played Monmouth twice, they played St. Peter's already on the road, Canisius and Siena twice. Their last 6 regular season games, 5 of them are against teams below them in the standings. The last one is St. Peter's at home, who Quinnipiac only lost to by 4 on the road. So all the rest of the games, they should be favored in, or they should be the underdog by a point or 2 to, let's say, St. Peter's on Thursday. So I say the best case scenario for Quinnipiac, they get to 4-2 in those last 6 games, be 11-9 in MAC play, which would be terrific, coming off a 6-14 season last year, losing Giovanni McLean and James Ford and guys like that. So I think the probability that they get a bye is very good. Finish 11-9, get that 5th spot. MAC history says that if you get that 11th win, you're most likely going to get that 5th bye spot.
Definitely won't be a boring February.
No, not at all, which is unexpected.
Looking forward to all your coverage. You can check him out on Twitter for all of his recaps, video pieces, and more at @DylanFearon_. And when we come back, the Quinnipiac women's basketball team struggled a little bit these last couple weeks, but Josh Silverman has the answers as to why they will repeat as MAC champions.
Hello, Quinnipiac hockey fans, and welcome to the Neutral Zone.
Definitely St. Lawrence, and I think you're going to see the test coming up real soon.
They might be having a bit of an adjustment issue without that CBS line, but don't count them out.
At High Point Solutions Arena in Game 2 of Quinnipiac vs. Northeastern Series.
All this and more
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
coming up on #that. We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Hot hoops. We are now talking a little women's basketball. My man, Josh Silverman on the desk. Thanks for hopping on.
Maury, very happy to be here.
Josh, but without further ado, let's head to the highlight. Monmouth and Quinnipiac, a big game for the women's basketball team at home on Saturday. That game was at 1 o'clock, just a little bit before the men's highlight that we just showed you against Niagara. Quinnipiac coming off a loss to Iona as well as Fairfield, so they had been losing, but now they got back on their winning ways. Let's check out that highlight. Doesn't look right now like we have the highlights. So Josh, well, it does look like we have the highlight. Monmouth and Quinnipiac at the TD Bank Sports Center. Can Quinnipiac get back on its winning ways? Early on, Morgan Manns with a little miss. Paul Schoutmanet, great energy to tip out Carly Fabry. Second chance points are absolutely devastating for a defense. Quinnipiac an early 39-22 lead. Now Jen Fay drills the three in the corner. This Quinnipiac team, Josh, hit 13 three-pointers in this one, 50% from beyond the arc as we head into the second half. Brittany Martin, little skip pass to the corner. Morgan Mann shot fake. She's deadly, one of the best three-point shooting guards in mid-major women's basketball. She drills that one down. Monmouth, though, tried to make things interesting. That three-pointer goes for them, but Adelie Martucci with the miss. Quinnipiac, little offensive rebound. Sarah Schuin up and good. Quinnipiac would go on to win 74-54 and improve to 11-3 in the match. And even that loss against the Hawks from earlier in the season. Josh, did Quinnipiac, make sure that its shooting woes were fixed in that game against the Hawks?
Maury, they're tied for their best three-point shooting on the season, and Adelie Martucci even chucked up a half-court shot at the end of the first half, so it's almost like it was their best three-point shooting of the season. However, I'm going to need to see more because their field goal, their total shooting was only 34%. Assistant head coach Mountain McGilvery, who we spoke to after the game, said that the reason it was so low is because Monmouth was testing them to shoot their three-point shots because they weren't falling before. So I'm going to need to see them, shoot like this for the rest of the season, maybe even 1 or 2 games into the MAC tournament. I know that's basically the end of the season, but it was really bad. That shooting when they were playing Iona, 10 for 25 from free throws. No one's guarding you. You can't shoot like that. They lost that game. So I'm going to really need to see more shooting, more consistent shooting, and the shots going in for me to say that the woes are fixed, but it's a great note going to Marist on Thursday.
Yes, this team did hit 13 three-point shots, 50% from beyond the arc, like I said, but just 12 for 47 from two-point land. Josh, in your eyes, Quinnipiac got away from the gold rush a little bit. Are they panicking now to try to find that right solution?
Well, the loss of Brittany Johnson really hurt them. I think it was a little undervalued. She was a little undervalued as to how much of a loss that really is for the team. Early in the season, they had a lot of players. They have 5 players for 17 minutes, 6 players with 14 minutes, and now is Adelie Martucci with 33, Erin McClure with 27. That was both in the Monmouth game, and then a bunch of players with 13 minutes. So they're still subbing the players. They're just not doing 5 in, 5 out. I think Trisha Fabry's kind of tinkering with the lineup and seeing what works. They're 3 and 5 in the games since Brittany Johnson's been injured, so they're still playing, they're still winning, they're still a great team in the MAC, but they haven't found the right solution yet, I believe.
Well, we still have 6 more games in the regular season. Let's check out the standings because Quinnipiac's lead is really, really tight. Ryder tied with Quinnipiac with the same record. Quinnipiac, though, has swept the Bronx this season, so if the teams end in a tie, Quinnipiac has that edge. Iona, 1 game behind Quinnipiac, who beat Quinnipiac down in New Rochelle. Iona pays a visit to Quinnipiac in just over a week. Fairfield, another team that beat Quinnipiac. They are at 9 and 5, and then you have Marist, who plays Quinnipiac tomorrow evening on Thursday, and Siena rounding out the top 6. Canisius, Monmouth, Manhattan, Niagara, and St. Peter's from 7 to 11. So, Josh, what do you make of the standings? Are you pretty confident that the Bobcats will repeat as regular season champions?
I am. They're still first in scoring offense, first in scoring defense, and first in scoring margin. They're still the best team in the MAC. They're a complete team. They have 8 players with 100 or more points. You still have players like Jen Fay and Morgan Mans, who you talked about during your highlight, who can shoot and basically hit any 3-point shot. They're their best 3-point shooters. So they're still a complete team. They're still a great team. But Ryder's going to give them some trouble in the tournament. Iona is going to give them some trouble in the tournament. And, I think when Iona comes in 2 weeks, and next week, that's going to be a great game.
Jen Fay, Adelie Martucci, Paul Stroutmanet ranked 25th, 27th, and 30th in the MAC in scoring. This is a team that has been at the top of the MAC standings for the last almost half a decade, and they just do it without even top scores, and it's pretty impressive because of their depth and their defense. Josh, real quick, they have Marist tomorrow night. We might see the game get canceled. We might not. We are expecting a foot of snow. But if they do play this game, what do you expect out of the Bobcats against Brian Georges' Marist Red Foxes?
I expect a win, but Hannah Hand, who's filled in for Allie Clement when she's been injured, she got injured in the 3rd game of the season. Allie averaged 12 points a game. Hannah averages 10 points a game. The Bobcats, the Bobcats will need to stop Marist. They really only have 5 players that can score. Only 5 players with 100 more points, but they all have more than 150 points, more than 200 points. So Marist will need their 5 players to beat Quinnipiac's 8. So can they do that? It's going to be a great test between 2 great coaches.
Once again, 5 o'clock tomorrow night at the TD Bank Sports Center, Quinnipiac and Marist. And that will be followed by the men's game, like we mentioned in the first segment, 8 o'clock, St. Peter's against the Bobcats. For more information, you can check out our website at q30television.com for all of the latest Quinnipiac men's and women's basketball information. You can check his Twitter out for all the women's basketball information at Josh M. Silverman, and Dylan Fearon, who was on earlier, at Dylan Fearon _. For Chris Stacy, our executive producer of Hot Hoops, and his entire staff, I'm Maury Hirsch-Gordon. We'll see you next time.